The rain was pouring down over the city, flooding the sidewalks, and in the middle of the storm she stood, helpless yet breathtaking. Emily, tall and graceful with a figure that turned every head, was drenched from head to toe. Her blouse clung tightly to her curves, her long hair falling over her shoulders in wet strands, her lips trembling slightly as raindrops rolled down her glowing skin. She was stranded with no umbrella, no shelter, and the sight of her in that storm was like a painting that refused to fade from the eyes of anyone who glanced her way. But for Daniel, who had just pulled his car to the side of the road, she wasn't just a stranger in the rain. She was an impossible vision, someone whose presence demanded he stop, someone fate had placed before him. Daniel stepped out of his car, the sound of the rain loud against the umbrella he held. His eyes locked onto her immediately, the way she wrapped her arms around herself for warmth, the way her blouse outlined every detail of her body, the way her soft eyes seemed to carry both strength and vulnerability at once. For a second, he almost froze, caught in the intensity of the moment, but then he moved toward her, every step echoing in the water splashing beneath his shoes. She looked up at him, startled at first, then curious. Their eyes met, and in that single glance, something unexplainable happened. It wasn't just politeness or kindness, it was an instant pull, like gravity had chosen that very storm to draw them together. "You'll get sick standing here," Daniel said, his voice calm but carrying something deeper, something that made her feel both safe and nervous at once. He tilted the umbrella toward her, shielding her from the downpour. Emily hesitated, biting her lip as she looked at him, studying his strong jawline. The way his eyes didn't wander, even though every other man on the street would have stared at her body in the rain. She stepped closer, the space between them shrinking, the umbrella forcing them into a small, intimate world of their own while the storm raged around them. Their shoulders brushed, and the warmth of his presence sent a wave of comfort through her chilled body. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged. Every droplet of rain hitting the ground around them only amplified the closeness, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. She finally whispered a thank you, her voice soft yet trembling as though even that small word carried more meaning than it should. He smiled faintly, and the sight of it made her heart beat faster, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm she couldn't control. In that storm, surrounded by chaos, they had found something far more powerful, a calm connection, a spark that neither of them could ignore. The drive through the city felt like a dream neither of them wanted to wake from. Daniel had insisted she get inside his car to escape the storm, and now Emily sat beside him, her wet clothes clinging to her body, the faint scent of rain mixed with her perfume filling the small space. Every time he glanced at her, he noticed the way her damp blouse traced her figure, the delicate curve of her neckline exposed as her hair clung to her skin. She caught him staring once, and instead of looking away shyly, her lips curved into the faintest of smiles, as if silently acknowledging the electricity between them. The wipers brushed away sheets of rain, but the silence inside the car was thicker than the storm outside. He wanted to say something, anything, but his throat tightened because every time her eyes met his, he felt words weren't enough. Emily finally broke it, her voice soft but filled with unspoken courage. "Why did you stop for me?" she asked, her gaze fixed on him with curiosity and something more. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to sound casual but failing. "Because leaving you there in the rain didn't feel right. And maybe because I couldn't look away." Her breath caught at his honesty, and for a moment she didn't reply. Instead, she shifted slightly, turning toward him, her knees brushing against his leg. The contact was small but electric, sending heat through both of them. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, her cheeks warming even though the cold rain had chilled her minutes ago. Daniel's eyes dropped, just for a second, to the curve of her lips glistening under the faint car light, and the temptation became unbearable. When the car stopped at a red light, silence wrapped around them again. The world outside seemed irrelevant. The rain, the honking, the flashes of headlights, all of it blurred into nothing, compared to the closeness inside. Emily leaned forward slightly, her voice almost a whisper as she said, "You don't even know me, yet you're looking at me like—" She trailed off, her words hanging in the air. Daniel turned to her, his voice low and steady. like I've been waiting to see you my whole life." Her lips parted slightly, her breath quickening at the confession. The moment stretched, thick with desire and anticipation. Neither of them moved for a second, the tension pulling tighter, until Emily's hand slid gently across the seat, brushing against his arm. The touch lingered, innocent yet undeniably bold, and Daniel felt every nerve in his body ignite. As the light turned green and the car rolled forward, their hands brushed again, this time neither pulling away. It was no longer about chance or the rain that had brought them. Together, something far deeper had already begun. The rain finally softened as Daniel pulled the car into a quiet street lined with trees, glistening under the dim glow of the street lamps. He parked near a small cafe that was already closed, the windows fogged from the storm, leaving them in a bubble of silence. The world outside was drenched, but inside the car, the storm was no longer the rain. It was the way they kept stealing glances at each other, hearts pounding, breaths uneven, as if they both knew the night was about to change everything. Emily's hair framed her face in wet strands, her blouse clinging to her, neckline exposed, making her look more irresistible than she realized. She noticed Daniel watching her, and for the first time, she didn't look away. Instead, she let her lips curl into a daring smile, leaning just slightly closer. "So, are you always this reckless?" she whispered, her voice carrying both playfulness and vulnerability. He smirked, his eyes locked onto hers. "Only when I find someone worth the risk." The words lingered between them, heavy with meaning. Emily's hand trembled slightly as she reached up, tucking her wet hair behind her ear, and in that small gesture, Daniel found himself leaning closer. Their faces were inches apart now, their breaths mingling, the air thick with anticipation. She felt his fingers brush lightly against hers, then slide upward, grazing her wrist, her arm, and finally resting on her shoulder. His touch was careful, reverent, as if he was asking for permission. She didn't pull back. Instead, she tilted her face toward him, her eyes half closed, surrendering to the magnetic pull that had been growing since the moment he found her in. Please click subscribe to our channel. We have more stories coming soon. Miss any new stories? Thank you for listening.